Now folks, if you're looking to use the power of your mind to find the toxic god, then I have the build for you. Though some caveats, folks. This build is relatively micro-intensive, that being, we will perform multiple Civic switches, we will perform an Ethics switch, and we will be changing our traits along the way, but these are all necessary evils to combat the struggling early game of Knights of the Toxic God, so let's get into it, folks. Now first things first, folks, make sure you turn on generous funding. This does give a 0.2 modifier to the monthly change, which will help you get to the Toxic God faster. But next things next, folks. You want to get up your engineering bay first, but you also want to build a shitload of temples. We will be filling out this district, but about, I think, 7 years in, we're going to be switching this out for a spiritualist district and switching this into our trade quarter itself. This will be pretty rapid though, folks, I will say that. This won't be a shock, folks, but this is a leader build, so I do heavily recommend Statecraft and Aptitude. The order I specifically recommend, though, is you take Constitutional Focus out of Statecraft, then you fully finish Aptitude before you go back to Statecraft. And then, when you get your Ascension perks, you want to go 1 Vision, just to help with the early game, then go Transcendent Learning. Transcendent Learning is a must-have for any leader build, in my opinion, folks. I just think it's really good. That 25% experience game is uncomparable. And that upkeep, it helps. It doesn't really do much for us in this build, but it does help, folks. Now it's 12 years in, folks, and we have absolutely converted our entire economy onto Priest. Now this is important for 2 reasons. 1, it hard carries our unity, and 2, it hard carries our stability. Given we have Byzantine bureaucracy, this is absolutely flooding our stability up to that 100%, which gives us that free plus 30% resources from jobs. That's uncomparable, folks. That's always why I love Byzantine bureaucracy early game, at least for Priest builds. Now, I will say this, folks. This is very important because our knights, they start off real weak. As you can see, we almost have 2,000 knights, but they can't even compare to the output of our priests right now. We will change this off later in the game, but right now we physically cannot afford to. We just physically can't afford to, folks. Now, folks, you're gonna have 2 options here, and I will say, both of them are pretty good. It just depends on what you want out of this. I'm personally gonna go Unity, just because it helps us get off our dependency on priests themselves, which will help us get off more knights. But if you want to do research just because you're thinking about the later game, you want to go full research knights, I honestly respect that position, folks. It's just not what I'm personally going to do here. Now, folks, we're about 21 years into this game. We're finally going to commit our first Civic swap. Now, this one's very important. We're going to do 2 things here. We're going to drop the Pope in favor of genetic identification. This will just help us get up more society, which will help us get our 3rd Civic relatively quickly. And on top of that, we're going to drop to Imperial for that increased plus 10% resources from jobs, folks. Now, while that isn't a huge bonus, it will help this build quite a lot. It's time for the second quest, folks, and I will say I strongly recommend you go research on this one. You need to be getting up the research pretty quickly, and I will say, folks, we're pretty much suffering on our research right now, while we're doing really well on Unity, so we can afford to not go Unity this time. Now for an insane pull here, right here, folks. Ulastar is a massive paragon. I love getting this guy. He's a reason to go spiritualist in itself. He is an insane counselor. Now, I will say, I would like him better if he was an industrialist. It irks me so much that he doesn't have an industrialist because his destiny trait does not synchronize with his advisor role. It annoys me so much, folks, because this would be huge if he were an industrialist. But, you know what, folks? I'm not going to get too tied up on it. He's still really good regardless. So I'm happy as hell with this one. Now, folks, we just finished our Psionic Tradition tree, and we're almost finished with Psionic Ascension. We only have 80 years left on it. But for our 4th Ascension perk, we're going to go Cosmogenesis. Cosmogenesis just has a lot of synchronicity with the Knights of the Toxic God. I won't give away all the spoilers yet, folks. But you need to go Cosmogenesis if you're going Knights of the Toxic God. It, quite frankly, is the true ending. Now, with the 3rd quest, there's 2 thought processes you can go down. You can either say, oh, yes, Enchanting Cirrus. Or, you can go, the price is too steep. The price is too steep is really good if you want to go into the cycle. It does increase your ability to get in the cycle by 20%. So that's pretty invaluable, folks. This pretty much helps you get into the cycle pretty consistently, folks. Now, I will go into Cirrus in this build specifically because we will be doing something here in a second that necessitates it. But
I will say, you want to erect a monument just because this is the single best thing you can do for this situation, and it does negate the happiness debuff you get from this. Now we've just got an absolutely insane pull, folks. We got the Memorex. Now for those of y'all who don't know, the Memorex is the result of a relatively niche archaeological chain that results in you getting a modifier on your capital that gives a free plus 20% resources from jobs. Now, it does have some in-lore complications within itself, but within the confines of this game, it does nothing to you besides giving you that insane plus 20% resources from jobs. So, I really recommend you always take the Memorex, folks.
Now, we've unlocked our third Civic, so it's time for something very important. We're going to switch out genetic identification in favor of Police State and Reanimators. Police State is just a very good temporary stay-hold for this build, but Reanimators is absolutely vital. That plus 2% resources produced from soldiers based off a council position can get up to plus 40%, which is absolutely insane. That 10% is just free job efficiency, and the Dread Encampment within itself is just generally a good building for this build, which will give us a little bit more research, which absolutely is helpful. I won't lie to you folks, this absolutely does help us. Now for the fourth quest, there's like 3 different paths for this quest. I personally recommend you do Honors All, then you'll tick for just a second and you'll get a second pop-up. Give it a second, there it is. Now, you can do 2 things here. They're both pretty good. This will have late game ramifications, but they don't really matter. Now, take the Neutronium Armor. It will give you a curse, which won't bother you right now, but that plus 15% resources from jobs is absolutely insane for this build, folks. Just in my opinion, anyway. Now, we finally pierced the Shroud, and we've got an offer to Covenant. Now, this is very important. You want to reject the Covenant in favor of shaping the Shroud. We'll get into this in a second, but shaping the Shroud is objectively the best path right now, in my opinion anyway. Now we finally unlocked Scraps of Power, and I want to point this out, folks. There are 2 schools of thought, as been pointed out in my last video, but you can either put it on your ruler for the guaranteed event to make them a god, which will unlock a special council position and a civic, or you can put this on a governor to have better bonuses later on a slightly skeptical RNG. I personally recommend you put this on your ruler. I don't like to throw part of my game away for a small chance to get more modifiers later. That's just me, folks. But if you want to gamble, I completely recommend you put this on a governor. Honestly, folks, it is a pretty massive change in tempo if you do that. I won't lie to you. It is really good to do that. It's just not worth it, in my opinion, in my head right now. Now, if you've been following the build up until this point, it's around the time you should switch off your priests to knights. Now, why is this? This is because we switched off to telepaths, which telepaths are generally very good at this point for Unity, so we don't have any Unity issues anymore. Likewise, the knights can produce a lot of research, which we desperately need right now, so it's just the knight's time to shine. Now, this won't be any shock to any of y'all, but for the 5th quest, we're going to go down research. We are in the mid-game, so we need ever more research, just ever more research. So every choice we get, we're going to take research if we can. Now this is the 6th quest, and here's my recommendation. I recommend you protect this motherfucker. This guy's an asshole, but protecting him will give a better modifier, that being 600 free farmer jobs, gas from farmers, an additional max district, and free knights. I don't remember what you get from the other one, but I remember it is not very good in comparison to this. Likewise, you will get more Unity later. So, honestly folks, it's not much of a decision. You need to protect the bastard. Now folks, we finally got the Divine Sovereign event, and that's very important, but we need to switch our civics before we do this. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to switch out Police State in favor of Entropy Drinkers. Entropy Drinkers in itself has that Convergence of Will, which does give plus 2% effective counter skill, even if it will tank our population growth speed. It's frankly worth it, folks, especially at this point of the game, but the reason why we're doing it right now is because the Divine Sovereign is currently glitched. So that Civic Divine Sovereign doesn't actually give the +1 civics. Very unfortunate, folks, but work with what you have instead of what you want.
Now we're about 114 years in the game, and as you can see, we're doing very well for ourselves. We're not just making a little bit of research, we're making all of the research. Yeah, sure, we're skimming a little bit on Unity, but that doesn't really matter too much. Now, as you can see, we are making a lot of job efficiency for all of our psionic pops. Now, I'll point it out, this is all Divine Conduit. As you can see, if we drop it, it goes back down to 70%, but we add that back up, that is 336%. Currently, we're getting 266%. And I will say, folks, I missed a couple bonuses here and there, but it is absolutely fine, folks. This is like one level below what the absolute maximum is. Now, the way we're getting this is we get a slight modifier for every single one of our telepath buildings. So, what the actual number ends up being, it's like 1% times the 1400 telepaths times the skill level of the counselor. Now, there are ways to get it higher, for example, putting Shroudshapers on your governor, as I pointed out earlier, but this is the only way to get it absolutely guaranteed to get the Divine Conduit, which you absolutely need, folks. Now, just to show off my actual economy within itself, I mean, look at it, we got 5 Lord Commanders. Honestly, that's the funniest thing from this. There's 5 of them. There's only supposed to be 1 guy, but he's doing 5 people's jobs. But, just showing off all of these, you can see we are doing very well for ourselves. I think this is the most efficiency possible, pretty much, in the game as a whole. Kind of surprised they haven't nerfed this, because I remember this back in the day, but I wasn't aware it was this good, folks. Absolutely insane. I'm gonna go Psionic for a while now, I won't lie to y'all. Now, closing out my final thoughts on this build, folks. Toxic God has always been an absolute blast, but I will say, folks, this Psionic brings it to the next level. Absolutely the next level. Now, I know for a fact I've missed some of the bonuses I could have gotten. Let me know about those in the comments, just so maybe I'll revisit it in the future. But, quite frankly, folks, we're still doing pretty well for ourselves, and I really do recommend y'all try this one time or another.
Now, folks, Editor Lethal here. I just want to cover a few of my mistakes I made in this video. My first big one being, I went Psionic humans instead of Psionic birds. I did forget that spatial mastery is specifically tied to avian portraits. That's my bad. That's an additional +1 to leaders. Likewise, I should have swapped out Byzantine bureaucracy in favor of mutagenic spas. That's an additional +3 to leaders. Now, I will say, folks, these aren't game-breaking missing, but that is an additional +50% job efficiency to psionic pops that I could have avoided missing out on. And frankly, folks, I strongly recommend you don't miss out on these. That's just my opinion though, folks. Do whatever you want to. Now, folks, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you check out some of our others in the top right corner. But make sure you delve into that like button and form a covenant with that subscribe button. Thank you kindly, folks.